Hey guys, Keith Keller, Melbourne, Australia, and you're watching another episode of Better Than Real Life Events. I love this show. I love this show. We've got lots of really cool guests planned all the way to Easter, and we're really having a lot of fun. Just bringing Irene in now from Connecticut, and this is live streaming. You know, people can come and go, and sometimes there's technical glitches and people can't come on time, but we're the gang's here. We're waiting on Doyle, and he'll be here very shortly. But today we're going to be talking about sketchnotes, this idea that you can get some major leverage by going to events and sketching out the really key points rather than just scribbling down some notes. We've all been to events, we've gone home, we thought, what was that about? But a sketch note, an image, really makes a compelling representation of what's happening. We've got our friend Lisa Rothstein from San Diego calling in. She's made the time. It's 4 o'clock there. And we're going to be talking all about sketch notes and about doing that in the real life world and also in the online world. Irene's calling in from Connecticut, and also my mate Doyle will come in soon from Perth. He's going to talk about his brand new idea called the Digital Pathfinders. And I've got a video about that at the end. So let me introduce Lisa. Let's show the world what you're doing there, Lisa, and what are sketch notes and why do they make such a difference when you're at events? I'll just show one here just to give you a bit of a sense of it.
Yeah, that's one I did at a recent event. Yeah, so I'll actually put one up that I've done recently while I'm talking to you. But a sketch note is something like when you're taking notes, but it's not just notes, it's not just words, it's also pictures. So I mean, it helps to be able to draw a little bit, but you really don't have to draw all that well to be able to take notes in this kind of way. Now, this one that you're seeing here is one that I did it was 2 hours long. I did it live during an online coaching event. That was 2 hours long, had 2 different speakers. Obviously, I didn't write down everything that they said, but I caught the main points. And the great thing is that it helps you. I do this as a professional, but even if you do, I teach people how to do these kinds of things for themselves and also their teams. And what it does for you is, besides it keeps you interested. I get bored during meetings, like anybody else, and so when I do this sort of thing, it keeps me engaged. But when you do it live during a live event, it keeps other people engaged too, because you can show the drawing.
Yeah. Well, let's pick up on this, because one of the really key points, one of the massive points we have now online is the burnout associated with what we call boring heads. You know, just me talking to you on the screen. But you've just said, if you can actually find a way to doodle and make these sketch notes, you stay more interested in the content, which means you're taken more in, but also the people in the room at the event take more in. And I'm guessing that must really work really well.
Oh, sure. I mean, it really does, because not only are they going to be, more interested in the content, like while they're seeing it come to life, but also after it's over. I don't know if you know this, but there's a statistic that says, I think something like 75% of what you hear in a seminar or a meeting is gone after 24 hours. And something like 90% is gone after 72 hours. I'm going to show you a cool thing that this software does that I take these notes with. I do this on my iPad, and so during the event, it doesn't go as fast as this, but after it's over, you can also replay this little video that happens that the software does kind of automatically.
And what software are you using?
This is called Procreate. It's a well-known app for the iPad Pro and the Apple Pencil.
Procreate.
Procreate. If you don't work on a Mac or Android, or iPad, if you work on Android instead, there's other programs like it. I think Adobe Sketch does things like this.
Okay.
There are similar things, but imagine when you're in a meeting or in a seminar, you see something like this happening, like while the speaker is talking, obviously much slower, but it's a lot. You can have somebody off on the side doing that, and it really does help to engage people. Also, if they're participating, they get to see their ideas reflected in.
Let me bring Irene in on this, because it was actually the story I want to tell here is that Irene said to me one day, we've got to get a sketch artist to come to our events. And amazingly, the same day, absolutely the same day I met you, and I jumped straight on the phone.
I know, it was so weird. It was such a coincidence, wasn't it?
So, Irene, why do you think these ideas of sketch notes, these ideas of little images of the event, are really quite a great way of keeping engaged? I'm really interested in your idea, given that you started the idea, and here we are.
Oh, thank you, Keith. Yeah, it was in a moment. Lisa, first of all, yeah, let me confess how I admire what you do. Okay, I am one of the artistically challenged people.
Everybody says that. Everybody says.
I cannot do what you do, all right? And by actually inviting talented artists like yourself, to kind of to make the boring meetings or events or something that's really not very artistically, I would say, rich. Okay, to add another media to what we do, I think that's extremely powerful, because what you've done basically, right? The basics of what you hear in the room, illustrated. It becomes alive, because we are humans. We do, consume information in different ways. Better than I do. So I come from business background, and I didn't see the long seminars. And people get really, overwhelmed with all the content, with all the noise and everything, right? So artists like yourself, like helping us to digest.
Actually, that's you make a very good point, because it's not only about the drawing. The hardest part about what I do, and it's not the drawing at all. It's listening and picking out the things that need to go, because obviously not everything that everybody says, for 2 hours is going to be on a thing like this. So you have to kind of learn to listen for the main points, so that people, so that when you come to things, that people will say, yes, I remember that part. Oh, yes, I did. That was one of the main ideas. So speakers will tell stories, or they'll chit chat amongst themselves, and obviously you're going to just let that all go by. But then when they say, well, there's 3 things that I want you to remember about X, Y, Z, it's like, oh, my antenna goes up. 3 things I've got to remember. 1, do this. 2, do that. So I'm obviously I'm zooming in and out with my finger. I'm just using my fingers to do this with like scrolling, like the way you do on your phone. Pinching and zooming the way you do on your phone. So if this is like my whole gallery of stuff. So I showed you this one before. This one was a 2-hour meeting, and the main speaker was talking about this, and I thought this was going to be the entire talk. But then this guy came on. I don't know if you know who he is. His name is Dr. Daniel Amen. He's a very well-known brain expert here in America. He came on and he had a whole other talk about a whole other topic. So I had to move things around and fit him in and make a little picture of him. And there's a bull chasing a guy, because he made a point about adrenaline and how people run with the bulls and they're looking for more dopamine or something like that. So it's fun. I didn't pick up everything that they said, but I picked up the things that I thought people would want to remember. So then all the other folks who were at that event, what I do after I'm done with this is, depending on if I've been hired or if I'm just doing it for fun, I put it up online where other people see it. And so the other attendees, of hundreds of people, attended this coaching thing, and they didn't know I was doing this, because I was doing that kind of on the sly. And then I put it up in our group, and they're like, "Oh, this is amazing! Oh, thank you so much for doing this," because it helps them remember the teaching points.
Well, let me pick up on what you've just said there, because this particular show is called Better Than Real Life Events. We're going to actually really pull apart all the different tech that you can use to simulate and maybe improve upon the real life experience. And so I really want to hear from you, Lisa, why, which particular slant you prefer. Do you like to go to the in-person events and get the vibe I'm guessing on a piece of paper?
Right.
Or do you like to do it online, and therefore, like if someone comes in late, you can move things around and there's editing tools, I'm guessing. What's the difference between the two of them, and how do you prefer, or do you prefer one over the other?
Well, I mean, it's interesting that you say that because, you know, when I'm going to see if I can find another thing on my computer, when I go to in-person events, obviously it's a lot of fun. You know, you get to meet people and see people, and that's a lot of fun. But it's also, you know, difficult. It's kind of a hassle. Let me see if I can, if this will let me share my screen with you. I'm trying to be multimedia here. That's another thing. Here's one thing you can do online that you can't do in real life. So if I share my screen, it's easy with two monitors. I don't care. I know it's easiest with two monitors. Oh no, it's going to give me the screen of death. That's not going to work. Okay. All right. So when I work in person, I've got to bring markers, and you know, the way I did it before I started doing this digitally was there were markers and there were big boards and easels and all of that stuff. And you know, it was a big hassle, and you had to travel and you had to carry your things and all of that.
Yeah.
But you know, when I started doing the digital work before COVID even happened, and I was just you know, sitting in the audience in real life at an event, and I did a digital doodle on my iPad, and I posted it on Twitter, and I tagged the speaker, and I tagged the conference, and people just went crazy for it. And I got so many people saying, "Oh my God, can you do this at my event? Can you do that at my event?" And I'm thinking, well, this is great because I love to travel. I mean, I know a lot of people really prefer not to travel, especially now everybody wants to be going somewhere because we've all been so stuck in our homes. But even when we were able to go everywhere, I'm always on a plane. If you want me to go somewhere, I'm there. I don't even care if it's a place I want to go. I like to go, you know, so it never occurred to me that I would prefer sitting at home, you know, doing this. But what's great about it for me is I have way more scope in terms of who I can work with.
Yeah. Well, let's pick up on that. Let's bring Irene in on this, because we are constantly toggling between the two parameters. Should events be online? If indeed they can be, because a lot of them people can't. And if they can be, that's great. But what's the online leverage? I'm really interested in your thoughts, Irene, on how you could play this out both on the online world, because you could leverage it on Twitter and LinkedIn and share it, and you wouldn't have to travel. But how does it compare? What do you, because you were the original instigator of this idea, where do you see this going and how we can add it to our events?
Yeah, what I've heard from Lisa. So first of all, the benefits for the audience are clear, right? We would love to have talented people around us, especially when they work live. Okay, this is amazing, right? When some artists don't like to show their work like halfway. Okay, but this is such an exciting element of when you see the person working next to you and you see it starting really from nothing, and then it appears, you know, in the way, again, Lisa consumes information, the way she's able to graphically express it, that's already elevate the experience in that room. Yeah. So bringing that digital point that Lisa was talking about, this is fantastic because she said her tools are all here. Okay, and we will be, just repeating the common sense that, hey, when you sketch something, right, with this digital media, with these digital capabilities, you're able to, distribute among attendees immediately. And that's immediacy. That's this beautiful digital world we're all.
Well, let me pick up on that. Imagine if you're at an event, and we're probably going to do this soon. Imagine you're at an event, or there's an event online, and we use a hashtag. Say, for instance, BTRL events with our hashtag that we use. You know, better than real life events. You have this hashtag, and everyone knows the hashtag, and everyone's at the event. Now, what you can do online is if you had a digital representation, and there it is, Lisa starting now, you know, if you had a digital representation of what we're doing.
Oh, I didn't even know my thing was on. I was going to reveal it to you later. Oh my goodness. You can see what I'm doing.
Yeah, you're coloring in the world. I'm guessing it's a going global idea.
Yeah.
So here's a very good real life example. Irene is in Connecticut. I'm in Melbourne. Lisa is in San Diego. Now, there's the chances of us being in the room at this point in time in 2021 are almost impossible. So now we're having a conversation we wouldn't have had before. That's the first representation of better than real life. The second idea is Lisa has a visual and also a virtual version of the event now coming and taking shape on her iPad, which people can see evolve before their eyes. That's another level of engagement, isn't it?
Totally, Keith, absolutely. And you know what? It makes you part of the creation right there, right? You're part of the process because you are sharing same virtual room. And again, for me, it's fascinating. Just fascinating to see how artist is working, all right? And I'm sure for many other people too. So absolutely. So Lisa, again, applause to what you do. Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah, so what's great is what we're talking about right now is here I am making this thing, you know, over here in San Diego, and you're in Connecticut. So yeah, so
I hope you're not sketching me and Keith in there, but you totally have the right to do so if you feel it.
So I'm here, you're here. That doesn't look like America to me. And all the way on the other side of the world, we've got Keith.
Australia.
Yeah, I know. All the way on the other side of the world.
Well, it's a 14-hour flight, mostly over water.
I know. I went to Australia a long time ago when I was living. I was still living in New York, so it was even further away than. Yeah, there you go.
It's Keith in Australia.
That's the way to look at it. Can't wait for Doyle to join.
Oh, wait a second. You're supposed to be down under, right? Like that's right. So here's what I'm going to do. It's like that's another good thing.
There it is.
Wow.
I can move you. I can erase this. I'm going to move you. You know, but I'm going to still say that you're down under.
Wow. And I guess the points, Keith, we have to start making some points because otherwise there is no substance. There is no context.
Well,
right?
let me play this out. So first things first, we're talking about better than real life events. Now, this is really powerful. So and while you're doing this, I want to actually bring in some of the people from our brand new Facebook group. We are on StreamYard, and we can stream simultaneously to Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube. Now, that is one reason why we are better than real life. I've been to events in the city. I spoke well. There was 20 people in the room, and that's all. The 20 people in the room got my wisdom and the wisdom of everyone else speaking. But once we left, and this is exactly what Lisa's saying, once we left, we woke up the next day and we go, you know, I'm not even really sure I remember what I said, let alone what everyone else said. So you've forgotten all, because a lot of the I like to riff. I like to just go on the sort of Q&A format. I'm sort of bouncing off ideas, and I'm in real life. I don't necessarily go in with the script. So you know, you come home and you go, geez, you know, that was a good event. I had a lot of time and I had a good time, but I can't remember what people said. And I've always found this annoying personally because I never ever get a recording. I never get a recording. So I can't really recap. So that's the first thing. We can listen on Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube, and we can just throw it around the world. One of our videos has had 6,000 views. The other thing is that we can listen on all sorts of devices. Are you on your laptop? Are you on your tablet? Are you on your phone? Are you on a PC or a desktop? You know, this is just a multi-dimensional process. And the most important thing is that we're just all over the world. I'm in Melbourne, Australia, right down there on the bottom, near New Zealand. and you guys are in Connecticut, and you're on the opposite side of the same country, hours and hours away.
That's right. We're 3,000 miles away from each other. So I know it doesn't sound very much when you're all the way, you know, on the other side of the world, but.
And here's the really interesting thing. Doyle now can make comments on Facebook and on YouTube. So we can add another. This is why I love the online world. Doyle is here now, and he's calling in from Perth. But he can make comments on Facebook and or YouTube, and we can put that in the show. So we have a multi-dimensional process here. And I knew you'd love this, Doyle. Look at this. Look what we're doing. We're actually drawing live on the show.
Doyle, okay? Those who late, they late forever, all right? We're having all the fun with Lisa. Look what she's doing.
Better late than never. But you've been very big on the idea of drawing. Does this excite you? Is this similar to what you do?
Absolutely. That's why I thought it was a fantastic way to kind of create more levels. Hi, how are you?
Good.
I thought it was more appropriate to create those additional levels of that digital experience that we're trying to build into. So to me, it activates a totally different part of your brain, right? And
absolutely,
and that's what we're missing technically right now. Like you talk about Zoom fatigue, it's because they're boring meetings. Let's be perfectly honest. A meeting in real life is boring, and then when you add Zoom in it's even.
Well, let me pick up on a couple of key points that Lisa can pill it. One of the things that a friend of ours coined is this phrase, boring heads. I'm talking, and then I throw to Doyle and he talks, and then I throw to Irene, who is not boring, but
she's never boring. She's never boring. Keep going.
Never boring. Never boring. And then there's a flat one-dimensionality in this process. Then you add this idea of a drawing, which is being drawn in real time. As we're speaking, you're adding the points in, and then suddenly people are going, I'm watching it evolve. Then when I finish, I get a sort of almost like a souvenir of the session. Yeah. And look, we've absolutely got to start including this in our shows from now on, and absolutely, certainly in our events. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, for sure. That's why I felt like let's get on this. I mean, I love Lisa's art. But there are a lot of artists out there that can kind of have started to see this, and then the event organizers have kind of started to get this more sort of part of it as well. I first came across it probably like a year ago at a boring Zoom meeting, and it just blew my mind. And to me, there's a huge potential here for artists like Lisa to just really go like gangbusters, because this is sort of that creativity that we just don't see at all. And if you can use it for brainstorming, if you can use it just for fun, for concepts, all that kind of stuff, I see it as a huge part of
well, let me ask you what you do, because
experience worth remembering.
Lisa uses a site on her iPad called Procreate. Is that what you use, or do you have a separate? Because you do it too, don't you?
Yeah, I do something like that. Nowhere near as sophisticated. I kind of sketch like stickman and that sort of thing. So I'm not an artist. So
wait, everybody says that. I'm going to prove to you that is not true. I'm going to show you something in a second that's going to show you that that's not true. What I'm doing right now is I'm actually just erasing, drawing with my eraser.
I'm actually blown away, Lisa, that you're able to draw and talk at the same time.
Exactly.
This is the first time I'm doing it. I told Keith I didn't think I could do it, and look, I'm doing it. So, see, it's look. Here's another thing that's better than real life for me, Keith and Doyle and Irene, is that I can move things around. Like when I was doing this sort of thing in the room on a big board, not only was I out in front of everybody else, which I don't really mind. You can probably tell I don't mind being in the spotlight, but everybody could see me. And if I made a mistake or I wanted to move something, I'm like, uh-oh. So you have to kind of like live with your mistakes a little bit more. Here, I can just decide, you know what? I think I'd rather move this down here. Oh, I think I'll move it over there. I'll make it smaller, bigger, So, because I don't know how this conversation is going to go. And I might decide, I think it's better if I move this word down below this, and then it could be part of this. See? And now I can just, move all of that. Make that, a smaller thing over there, because we may decide.
You can resize it. You can move it around. See? Look, I really want to pick up on this, Lisa. Most people would say, 98% of people I would know, including myself, would say, well, geez, I can't do that. I can't draw. But you're challenging us that really anyone can do this. And can you give us some ideas about how we can
I'm going to show you a little example of what I'm talking about, because I do train people in this, and most people come to it and say, oh, I can't draw, so I can't do this. But here, it's actually, first of all, it's not all the drawings. Some of it's also the words. But I'm going to just challenge you that anybody can draw a circle or something that looks like a circle. It doesn't have to be perfect, right? And so if you draw a circle, if I draw a a circle. I'm going to draw 4 circles. They're not all perfect. They're not the same, but they should be pretty much the same. So now I've got 4 circles, right? So here I'm just going to go like this for this one. All right. So we all know what that is,
right? That's our son over there named Keith.
Right.
Yeah,
that's the sun.
Now I'm gonna do this one.
That's a donut.
That's a donut.
It's a donut,
or
but
a pie chart.
If I do this, it's kind of more of a well. If I colored it in, it might help. If I color it in, you'll see. At least in America, this means something. This is like a life preserver that you would throw off of a boat.
Oh yeah, okay, yeah.
If I could do this, right? I could do, oh, here's a good one. I can do this, right? All right. So now
you just started with 4 circles.
Yeah, just started with 4 circles. Now here's the exciting part. Here's the exciting part, because it's not really about drawing. Because when I draw things like this, actually the second one is not actually the most interesting one. The first one, okay, we all know that is the sun, right? Big deal. But if you put a different word next to it, imagine if you put the word, you don't do sun, you say summer, or you say this. So you basically say, all right, I'm not gonna call it that. I'm gonna call it. I'm gonna say that I'm gonna just use this to mean this.
Yes,
now suddenly we have a concept. It's an idea, or you could say this. Sorry, my dog is somebody just. Or you could say. So
let me pick up on what you're saying there, Lisa. This is really powerful. Let me just debrief as what I'm now starting to call myself, a professional dumbass. I'm really curious about the world, but I don't know everything. So what you're saying there is you start with very simple images that you can draw, and most of the actual wizardry, the genius, is actually in the words you use to associate with the images. It's not an image on its own; it's the word associated with it.
Right. I mean, so actually this was a poor choice because the second one, it really is like, it really is rescue, or it's help, or it's emergency.
Yeah.
But and this is party, happy,
happy birthday.
Children, birthday. And then this is obviously, danger, or failure, or explosive, or whatever. But I actually wasn't planning on doing this, so I'm just, doing,
No, you're riffing. That's good.
I don't even use these examples in my trainings, but this is where I say, like, if you can draw, like here's another example. Let's see if I can make this whole thing. Whoops. This whole thing a little smaller. I'll move it over here. Move that over there. So we've got that. So we already did a circle. So now if we do say, whoops, I'm gonna stop that. All right. If we do, these different squares, you can do like a similar kind of thing, or rectangles. I can decide that this is
an envelope or an email.
An envelope.
Yeah. Well, yeah, it could be email. It could be, a card in the mail. It could be, any other kind of letter, or just correspondence in general.
Yeah. Okay.
I can make this into a
computer screen with keys in it.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. I didn't
entity on our in our universe.
So now it's a computer screen, and it could be a PC or Mac, or it could be work or work from home, or it could be, just, anything you want it to be, like, let's say you could even say it was like accounting or math, or school, and so you've got, and the same thing with, I could do this the same as the first one, and then I just put like a little handle on top, and now you have a briefcase, so it's office or
you make
lawyer.
it so easy.
Exactly. That hurts so much, Lisa. Okay.
But see what I mean? You can.
Easy.
It is easy. I mean, the point is you have to realize that you have a visual vocabulary. You just don't use it. And I think a lot of people think, oh, I can't draw because everybody said my sister was the artist in the family, or I only know how to do a stick figure, or, everyone always, because it's not about art. This is why I kind of resisted when people call me an artist. It's not about art. It's about communication. It's about storytelling. Yeah. It's about understanding, comprehension, meaning, and that's what matters to me. It doesn't matter to me if your circle is a perfect circle. Well,
can I ask another question as it relates to that? Why would this form of note taking, what we now call sketch notes, why would this be more powerful or more memorable than just simply writing down those words? What happens to our brain when we do both?
Well, I can't say I'm a brain scientist or anything, but it's proven that about the vast majority of our brain is actually given over, the part that understands messages is devoted to visual thinking. So we really are visual creatures from the very beginning. So that's why children love to look at pictures. It's not just because they can't read words; they love pictures. And we all love pictures. I mean, when I lived in Europe, I lived in France for about 12 years, and I was astonished that grown men were reading comic books. And it was a normal thing, and I realized that graphic novels are all over the place, so it's not even unusual now. But that's because people really enjoy pictures, and especially now when so much is visual, not just drawings like this, but videos and everything is visual, and everyone's staring at their phone all day long. People just really don't have the patience to read words. And then also you have the language barriers and things that sometimes happen. Now, obviously, not every symbol is going to work in every country. So, like, you didn't necessarily get what this was, where an American would get it right away, Yeah. So
we all thought it was a donut or a necklace or a donut necklace.
That's because
it wasn't a donut. Well, it wasn't donut. It wasn't donut.
Why do you think this format works? Why are you attracted to it? Why do you think the idea of images and words work much better than just words?
Well, yeah, as Lisa said, I mean, it's a part of your brain that's being activated that you don't normally see, or I mean, that's really, I mean, what your eyes are for, right? You look out and you see stuff. So when suddenly we've kind of changed that, and you have to come, I don't know, I'm not a brain scientist or brain surgeon.
You look like one to me, Doyle. I don't know, but keep going. Yeah.
But when you see something, it obviously activates a different part of your brain. So I can see Keith and I can see Irene. I can't see Lisa. I can see her as a little tiny thumbnail, but I can see those pictures. And to me, that's a lot more meaningful than just the words, right?
Yeah.
It limits, it's not necessarily laziness, but it limits sort of what you can see and what you can do and how you can kind of recreate that in your brain. And
would you imagine it make the event more memorable? Will you have a much better memory of it when you get home?
Yeah, I mean, fundamentally, that's what it is. It's your visual memory that's being queued up by this kind of stuff. So you kind of see how it was organized, or some of the core topics, and some of the key people that you were speaking with, and where Keith is from. That sort of stuff, where you can visually recreate that, instantly.
And it wakes up a child in all of us, right? I mean, we used to communicate in this language, right? All these years in early childhood, and then we lost it, and now we
exactly. They beat it out of us, and they took it away. And I want to give you pictures back. So you saw me do this with the beginning. Before Doyle came on, you've got a circle here. This is my favorite symbol, because you just draw any kind of squiggly lines, and now you've got the earth. It doesn't matter. It doesn't have to be an actual country, right? But it's the earth. But you could be talking about this. You could be talking about this. Whoops. You could be talking about You know, you could be talking about this. You could be talking about,
space, right? I'm thinking about traveling to other planets and seeing Earth. So
right. Oh, space!
Yeah.
I love that. Space. Yeah. So all of these words can go with this, and you don't even have to color it in. You get it right away, right? So it's kind of, if I could copy this entire thing, and I'm going to go back to our original drawing here, and I can paste it. I can paste it in so we have it all. Don't worry, I can make it smaller.
Yeah.
There we go. It goes down here. Okay. So it's on its own little layer.
Notability on the iPad. Are you using like an iPad?
I'm using an iPad. Notability is, I've heard that's good too. This is an app called Procreate that I really, really love. In fact, the thing I love most about it, I'm not sure if Notability does this, Doyle. Check this out. If I play this, it'll show everything I did since the beginning.
Wow!
Fabulous.
I move things around a lot more than I usually do, so
that's gorgeous.
It shows everything I did.
I use it more as sort of like a note tool, so I have kind of a presentation and kind of cues throughout my presentation, and then I'll kind of sketch over it to, accentuate highlights, or I might draw, a mountain top and somebody standing at the top too. So, but I love how you've kind of really simplified it, and I'm gonna have to try that.
Yeah, it's really fun. It's really fun to do. I love to watch the little video go. Yeah. So I love. So what's better for me than real life is all of these things I just showed you to do. It also is helping me with, I've trained people in what I've showed you just before, in person lots of times. And when I've been asked to do it, online, at first I wasn't so sure because I really love being in the room with people and having them see each other's drawings and stuff. But we have workarounds how we can do that online. I mean, when I do it in person, I have people break up into little groups and they draw a picture together and they present it to the rest of the room. So it's doable in breakout rooms and things like that. So it's not but the great thing is that you have people from all over the world who don't have to be in the same room.
Well, let me pick up on this, Lisa. One of the things that I think, and you've mentioned this yourself, you said that often when you speak at an event, but you don't go first or you don't speak on the first day, many people come up to you and say, geez, I wish you had started the session with that. I wish I had known this at the start of the conference because I'm learning all this like in the third day. And I could have been really using this. So I'm guessing that you front load conferences and you speak often on the first day, I'm guessing.
I spoke. I did this. I did this training at a conference called the Back End of Innovation in Las Vegas in November of 2019, and they had me on like the second day. It was a 3-day conference, and they invited me back this year. Sadly, because of COVID, they had to cancel it. But before they did, they said, "Well, we're going to put you with like one of the very first speakers because we noticed the last time that after people attended your workshop, they were taking notes in their own little notebooks with, using some of the things that you had shown them." So I was so pleased about that because that really made me, and I really think it helped them. They weren't doing it like just to to show off. I think they were thinking, hey, I really will remember more of this conference if I do it this way.
That gives me an idea actually, because Keith is all about pattern interruption. Okay, we all have to take care of our audience, right? Just kind of making life a little more dynamic than just sitting and listening. So I'm seeing this as what about a part of the event? Mini class. With Lisa, for instance, right? If she's
right. In fact, I've just been hired to do exactly. Yeah, I've just been hired to do exactly that by a company that actually was with me that day in Las Vegas, a large international company that I think they sell air conditioners and water heaters and things like that. And they're having a conference of their engineers in June. And they're like, would you come and would you sketch some of the other speakers doing, do this with some of the other speakers, but then we also want you to give the same workshop that you gave at the Back End of Innovation conference. So I get to do both. And that's the second or third time that people have asked me to do both of those things. And I'm
not surprised because you see, you made it all so easy. And I'm thinking, maybe I can draw after that.
That's what everybody says.
Yeah, that's so empowering, Lisa. So empowering. Thank you.
I'm going to show you another one. Since you made me so happy, I'm going to show you another one. Now, people think, I always say in my conferences that we are not. This is what we are no longer going to do.
Wait a second.
No more. No more stick people. Okay. I'm going to show you 2 ways to make people that. You know why I don't like stick people? Because it's the definition of I can't draw. And also because you're trying to draw a person, but I don't think there's any more dehumanizing way to show a person than this image right here. Bad, right? Okay. So we're gonna make him small because we don't like him. We're gonna have another way of doing it. So there's two ways I like that. I did not make these up. Okay, I discovered these and they're really, and there's other ones too, but these are my 2 favorites. So everybody knows how to draw. Whoops, sorry, I have to go back to this thing. Everybody knows how to draw this shape. We all learned it in school, right?
Yeah.
Right, pretty much. It doesn't have to be perfect. So you can, but here's the thing. What you do is you get rid of the top point and you just put a circle on there. Suddenly you start to have a person, but wait, here you go. I'm going to draw another star person, but I'm going to do something with the hands. Like now he's like pointing at something, maybe he's got, whatever. Here's a person you can do, you've got both hands up.
Wow.
It's making and obviously I also teach people how to do faces. So it doesn't only have to be like this faceless person. They can be really, really happy, The same thing if you do, now what if, there's a different mood going on.
Wow.
Suddenly you have like a different, completely different attitude. I've already done this one kind of, but you could have 2 people and now you kind of have a partnership, right? If you do that, they're like high-fiving. You can make them happy.
So easy, Lisa. So easy.
Yeah.
Wow.
No, but it is easy. You just have to. That's the thing. I just want to show you. Really, really isn't that hard. So that's one. That's the star person, right? Now, obviously, you could make it more. You could make it more elaborate and give them clothes and stuff like that. But you really don't have to. You don't have to do that. If you want, you can also do kind of sort of a bunch of them, and make them into a team. Like, oh look. We're a team. All right. So that's the star person. But that's one way. So we saw people doing that at the conference. But oops, I cut this guy's feet off. Oh well. We'll give him his feet back. All right. So the other one is something I actually like it better. It's called keyhole Ken. If you remember what an old-fashioned keyhole looks like kind of like this. Like an old keyhole. But you just close that circle, and now you just put a couple of feet down here. You put a couple of arms here, and then you can make their face any way you want. You can give them hair. You can give them, she's got a handbag. Maybe she's got a little dog.
Whoa.
I don't know. This. Wow. So I mean, this is very, very crude. So you could just take anybody, and it doesn't have to be a woman. Take anybody, and then, depending on which way their feet are facing, which way their eyes are facing, you got the hands right here. Let's say this person is, they can have an idea. Oh, look, I have an idea, so it's like a light bulb. Or I can say, let's see if I want to say this person was a certain kind of profession. Give me a job that this person has. Character.
A business person.
A business person.
That's not the job.
That's so imaginative. Okay. Okay. Wait a second.
I could say astronaut, but
well, okay. Now I'll do. Okay. Well, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to copy him. I'm going to copy him. And then, whoops! I didn't mean to do that. Okay. I want to paste him again. Okay. Now we got 2 of them. All right. So I'm going to move him over here. All right. So I've got the businessman. Let's say he has a tie. He has a
businessman
suit.
that wants to be an astronaut.
And he has a bag of money, right? Bag of dollar next to him, like this.
Oh, that's a good idea. See, that's exactly the kind of thing I'm talking about. I'm making it dollars. He might be. Maybe he's a little older.
He needs long hair too.
He's got yeah, he's a little older, and maybe he's got glasses. Suddenly we went from this to this, right? We went from this to this. But if you wanted to be an astronaut, then I guess we need to do this, and I don't know. Whoops. Yeah. Let's say
to that image of the Earth, and he's looking up at the Earth, going, "Hey, maybe it's not the Earth. Maybe it's the Moon.
Yeah,
maybe it's Mars.
Yeah, maybe it's
Mars. And his name is Rover.
Yeah, and maybe it's Elon Musk. Yes, next to Mars. So yeah, who knows? Yeah.
Yeah, there it is.
Wow.
I don't know what an astronaut looks like, really, but maybe what? Here's what we can do. It's the same man.
Mm-hmm.
It's the same man.
He was
inside
for a while, right?
He's having a dream
program, right?
He's having a
dream. He wants to be an astronaut.
He wants to be an astronaut. But see, what you knew right away what I was doing, because when I put the cloud around him and these little things, it means he's thinking about it. He's dreaming about it, right? Yeah, everybody knows that. It's a common language, right? So that's why he's smiling, because when he's thinking about his job, he's not smiling. But when he's thinking about his lifelong dream to be an astronaut. So what this story tells me is this guy was going to his job, and he was that's not. Hang on a second. Close these. This guy was going to his job, and he was really bored and depressed. But then he heard about how the Mars rover is happening. He read it in his newspaper, which he has right here. He read it in his newspaper, and now it's put him in a good mood, because he thinks, isn't that cool? We're going to Mars. I wish I could go to Mars. I should be one of these astronauts, So anyway.
And away from my annoying wife, which is on the background there, right? On the first.
Oh yeah, and my wife and my dog. I'm going to leave my wife and my dog and go to Mars.
I think you captured my life story, Lisa.
But you can make all kinds of things out of the keyhole person, and also if you just make their feet, pointing this way and their nose pointing that way, then they can be doing things. Then like where their nose is pointing up and they're looking up.
Mm-hmm.
So it's really easy. So you don't have to do this anymore. No.
Ever.
Yeah, ever.
Yeah. So
never ever.
Getting your Aussie on.
Yeah. So you really don't have any reason to do that anymore. So
the thing that's really interesting here, Lisa, is that suddenly now you've taken a relatively simple, fun concept, and you've made an event seem really quite interesting. I could easily see myself halfway through a conference in the city going into a breakout room and drawing astronauts and donuts and and life preservers and Earth and Mars, and suddenly the whole dynamism of the event changes, doesn't it?
Oh, it does. Yeah.
And interacting, right? You can involve people, right? Like what we did, bunch of ideas, we laugh together, we work together, even just recreational, right, break during event, right? That's already such an icebreaker. Not like.
And are you starting to do this more, Lisa, as a sort of as an icebreaker, as a sort of a way to keep momentum going within events? Because that's one of the things we're very interested in.
Well, I haven't, but we could. I have been mostly doing especially since COVID. Just sort of being in the background, doing taking notes while other people were talking. This is the first time we've had this kind of an interaction. When I've been interacting with people, it's mostly been because I've been brought in to do the training, to do training and how to use, do simple doodles and everything to take notes and to communicate with other people. So I haven't done it as an icebreaker, but it's a natural icebreaker, because it's just the sort of thing everyone feels like, oh, they're vulnerable, they don't know what they're doing. And then when they create something and they want to show it to each other and everything, it's very engaging and helps people. Also, when you tell people to draw something specific, like, I was at an event once. It wasn't about drawing, and in fact, everybody felt like they couldn't draw. I was at a, I wasn't the typical attendee. I think part of what they wanted to do was make everybody feel a little bit embarrassed, and I already knew how to draw. In fact, I drew this at that event. They said, draw a picture. It was right at the beginning, so they wanted people to kind of get to know each other, and so they said, draw a picture of your most embarrassing moment, or your dream career if you weren't doing what you're doing now, or a person who inspired you in your life. And then everybody did that. And then they all got up to present the picture that they had made. And they all started off with, well, this is terrible, but, oh, I can't draw, but. And then they would tell the story about their swimming coach who believed in them, even when they weren't a good swimmer, and they ended up winning the championship, or, their mother who brought them from Guatemala, or, oh, I wanted to be a rock guitarist, and we had a band called, some silly name. And, and you really got to know the people when they started talking about that. If they hadn't drawn the picture, I don't know if we would have gotten the same level of story.
Wow. Okay. It helped them. It helped them enliven it.
What I drew that day was a picture of my father, who's passed away since then. But there he is with the reason there's a number 1 there is it was the first exercise. So I tore this off and kept it because I wanted to remember it. But he that little hat he was in the Army. And he was very proud of that. And he was in Japan during World War II, and he made a lot of flutes out of bamboo that he found there. And I still have all of his flutes. And so all these words are things that I wanted to remember about, that I admired about him, and that I've tried to, emulate in my own life. And so after it was over, and I said, I want to keep this. So I keep it in my office. And it was really nice to really get to know people that way.
I think it's something that you could be doing up front, quite honestly. Like, I love sort of how you taught us how to sketch, but I think from a digital experience event perspective, having that at the beginning is super important. Take us through a journey of drawing and how to do it and why it's important and all that kind of stuff. And visualize it, help visualize it, and then kind of use your skills throughout an event. Because to me, again, we have to get past sort of just the 2-dimensional video cam, webcam to webcam kind of thing, and that kind of creates that extra little bit of interaction, engagement, of interest, of everything.
Right.
So to me, it's an absolute priority to get that sort of running very, very quickly. And we've also talked about adding music and depending on the session, that sort of thing. So kind of creating that environment where we can learn so much easier, or we can take in a lot more information because of the way that it's presented as well. Not just a boring PowerPoint, not just a boring Zoom meeting, right? It doesn't have to be a Zoom meeting that could have been an email, as they say.
That's exactly right. That's actually, I've been telling that to people, that it's like when you do something like this, you can't say, oh, it could have been an email.
Yeah, exactly.
Because
one of the reasons
it's the interaction, isn't it?
It's the interaction. That's what I was going to say. One of the reasons why that's true is, I think we said this before you came on, Doyle, is that people see themselves reflected in what, if there's a discussion and somebody's taking notes and they're taking down what people are saying, I mean, you're not going to get every word. But whenever I do it, whenever I'm, invited to meetings, if there are multiple speakers or there are people asking questions, if it's not too many, I always try to get some little bit of each person, either a little doodle of them or their quote or something like that, so that everybody who contributed, sees that, okay, it's on the picture. I was here.
Let me pick up on this. This is the reason I love live streaming. A very similar idea to what you're talking about. Doyle has now been able to capture the essence as a Facebook comment, which I've now been able to put onto the screen, and that means that the event itself is based on the interaction of the people participating. So that means that every drawing is different, every event is different, and we really, really, really want to pick up on this. So can you talk a little bit more about this, Doyle, and why this is possibly where online events are going, this interactivity?
Yeah, well, we need to stimulate our brains, right? Fundamentally, and I think that's obviously one of the ways that we can do that with the visual cues and the audio cues, and and that. And right now it's you're talking about, I don't know, a preliminary form of Zoom is a preliminary form of communication, right? It's just a technology, it's just a tool. We haven't actually learned how to use it. And again, that was what I was talking about earlier about Zoom fatigue. It's like we have this, and all it really is just, okay, I'll call you on Zoom and we'll see video instead of, picking up the phone and calling you. So it's just, honestly, it's from a technical standpoint, it's just another slow evolution of communication. What we don't capture, though, is that we actually have the intellects, we have the artists, we have the mathematicians, we have all different types of people and brains and all that kind of stuff out there. It's like, how do we actually use this? We have to bring in a better environment. We have to bring in a better
look, I've got an idea. I want to posit this idea. I want to posit this idea for an event we might do. Let's try this, Lisa. I have myself seen myself at an event as like a roving reporter walking around the tables or the breakout rooms going, how you going? Is everyone okay? Or just like a hostess, if you want, walking around the room saying, is everyone okay? Is everyone chatting to each other? But imagine if you had these breakout rooms or these networking rooms and Lisa jumps in and says, hey, what are you talking about? What are you, give me 10 minutes. Yeah. And then you have this visual representation of what that group, that subset of people at the event. And then it's like, as I said, a souvenir. So I could imagine if you're at an event for 3 days, the highlight would almost certainly be the time that you got a visual representation of what was discussed. Otherwise, you're just taking notes, aren't you? Do you agree, Irene? You haven't had much of a say today. What do you think about all this? Are we on the right track?
I'm just loving it all. I'm shocked and awed, Keith, of all the possibilities, okay? An amazing opportunity to really interact in this new way, okay? Not everyone has this component. I've seen it in physical event. I've seen the, Lisa, pardon me, how should we call you? Not the artist, but what's the right word?
It's a graphic recorder, a graphic facilitator. I think it's like a graphic facilitator is what we're doing here today. It's really more of a graphic facilitator. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. So I'm just excited by the fantastic opportunities, in front of us. Because look, we can create something together. And again, it depends what the particular scenario could be. But I love, again, watching graphical communicator working. So we can start early on with blank, right? And then as you work, and it's so exciting that, again, group can contribute to main points. You can help to summarize. You can really facilitate the process, right? The process of group working together. So I am.
And it's a great point in question. Here we are at the end of the first hour, and look at what we have from a blank piece of paper. And a discussion that we had, maybe a few questions in our mind, we came up with a graphic representation of what was discussed. And this is a souvenir. It really is a souvenir of the discussion, isn't it? I just love the idea.
Yeah, and that's something too. I was just going to comment on my comment, but when you remember something, you typically see it like a photograph or whatever, and you see the people in it or the location or those kind of cues. But
right? Kind of.
Yeah, but if you take like a lot of what people have been doing is taking like a screenshot of all the audience in the Zoom, right? So you've got like 50 little thumbnail images, which it's not the same thing, right? Whereas if this is like it's an elevating the experience because you're able to remember it based on what you talked about, who was there, that sort of thing. So it kind of reconnects your brain to what actually was important there.
And it adds color. Lisa, I love your graphic palette. I'm sure there's color theory behind that, right? The
only color theory is that I asked Keith before we got on here, do you have any colors he was using for his brand or anything like that? And he showed me the Better Than Real Life Events Facebook page.
And notice how we've got orange and blue.
This is our colors. You're perfect, Lisa. You're perfect.
Well, you know what? I come from an advertising background, and so I figured, well, if I'm going to pick, I like to limit my colors anyway, because if I've discovered that if you use too many, it becomes kind of chaotic. So if I'm going to use a limited palette, why don't I use the brand colors of the person who asked me to do the sketch? And that way, it'll encourage them to use it on their website, or it'll look nicer with their things. It'll look like it belongs to them, right?
And
So-
look at my little heart responding to this completely emotionally. I'm already involved because I did do something familiar. Yeah.
Your
Wow.
accent is like making me like so happy. It's so much fun. It really is.
It is. It's fun, but it's also educational, and it's the
We're
missing
global.
ingredient. It's the antithesis of boring heads, isn't it?
Yeah.
No,
Well,
no
especially when
more
we can
boring
talk.
Say,
heads.
Lisa, can you, though it's missing one piece here, I think you need to put my head in that global map. We can meet from
Oh, okay.
anywhere.
Yeah.
All right.
You can be the
yeah,
astronaut.
absolutely. You were late. That's why.
You were late, my friend. You were late
when we were talking. Where
I'm
are you,
over here.
Doyle?
I'm in
Where are you?
Australia. I'm
You're in
Better
Australia
than better than real life events. Better late than never.
Better late than
That's
never.
right.
Better than real life Doyle. All right.
Yeah.
He joins late, but we
Hey,
still.
Keith, can you make Doyle a little bigger for a second so I can see his
Yeah.
face
Well,
again?
what, my
Yeah,
head's
no
not
worries.
big enough.
Be
there
careful
you
what you asked for, Doyle. All right, be careful.
No, I think it's been a fantastic experience, Lisa, just to kind of follow along and get some of the insights behind it. To me,
Mhm.
that's revolutionary. It's fantastic. I really love what you're doing there.
That's
And
great.
again, to me, this is the future of events. So we need this. We need to step away from, again, that boring two-dimensional Zoom meeting and make it more fun and make it interesting. And
Well, I've got an idea. I was going to start. I was going to finish the event today with your really lovely 2-minute video, but I thought we might spontaneously watch the animation of the. Can you do that, Lisa? Can we finish the event with the animation of your?
Yes, I will. I'm going to try to. Here we go.
We don't need to do that yet, but if you want to talk about the digital pathfinders, it is an interesting idea. Can you tell me about the inspiration for that while we work out how to do the animation?
Yeah, it's really just creating a community based on how do we actually move forward, because in the post-COVID age, we really have to understand what's important and what's not. And to me, a lot of businesses have failed because they sort of haven't realized and stepped up that this is the digital decade. The 2020s are where a lot of businesses are going to make a lot of difference. But the problem is, the challenge is that we're not always completely prepared for it. And in this case, it was glaringly obvious, right? The businesses that made a great success, and I'm trying to be careful with my words here, because they were able to sort of they were able to identify the opportunity, right? People are still buying, people are still going out, people are still doing a lot of things. It doesn't necessarily limit everything, but for those who understood the challenges and who basically said, let's become a digital first organization, let's become a digital first company, those were the ones that were seeing like 5 years of growth in 6-9 months, right?
Yeah.
Because they understood that digital journey, and they understood that, okay, we need to shift and we need to realign and we need to be able to do things better. And that's what this group is, the Digital Expedition League of Pathfinders, is saying. A lot of it comes from digital leadership. A lot of it comes from how do we actually know what we need to do next. And if you're not prepared, if you're not ready, then, guess what? You might be a historical figure as opposed to sort of a current figure as well. So it's
a large animal hit by a meteorite 65 million years ago.
There you go. Yeah, so it allows us to think forward, to think digital, to think and understand what do we need to do to be able to bring our customer through this or through their journey or whatever the case may be.
And does that resonate with you, Lisa? Does that resonate with what we've talked about today, this idea of the digital pathfinder, the idea that businesses that can embrace these new technologies will ultimately win? Have you found that to be the case in your work?
Yes, absolutely. And I do. I mean, we've been through a rough, year plus. But I do think that I'm looking forward to the time after this when we will have found a way of combining in-person and digital in a way that's going to make the combination better than where we were before this whole thing happened.
The hybrid,
Well, and it's not just hybrid; it's also the fact that people who I've looked at people at companies embracing this kind of thing. It would have taken them years and years to get with a program on this stuff, and they were forced to do it really fast. And so now for me, for what I do, and this is not the only thing I do, but I do bring a lot of, it's becoming more and more, is it's really kind of catapulted, the need for not just the need, but also the appreciation of, how we communicate and all that is, it's really, I think it's going to be like an improvement over where we were. And I'm not just saying that as a way of, making lemonade out of lemons. It's
using
really
the
is.
tools. Yeah, it's using the tools that we have and creating I talk about it a lot, a remarkable digital experience worth remembering, right? A lot of businesses have had to just go digital, and that's fine. They can make something of it, but they have to create that experience that allows you to connect with your audience, and people aren't accepting anything less, right? And that's why people are dropping off, and that's why they're not joining in on your calls or your webinars, is because
let me pick up on a report that I've just read, and I want to give Lisa plenty of time to finish this drawing before we go to the animation. But what you said, Doyle, about the digital pathfinders is that we have noticed three major trends converging in 2021. One is with all of the people in the world that are suffering at various levels, there's a huge element of online escapism. I can't really deal with what's going on, so I'm going to go into a game, or I'm going to create a live stream, or I'm going to find this thing called Clubhouse and just going to talk all day or listen all day to other people talking all day. And there's such a thing that there's even sketches about how ridiculous that is. So there's a really big, massive trend towards escapism. Now that's a thing that's happening to the populace, and companies that know that can create programs for them. They're doing them a service by actually giving them something to do. The second idea, the big trend that we're jumping on, is that people are noticing that they can't travel even if they want to, but they still want to talk to people. So we are creating virtual events, far and away better than just the Zoom boring heads idea. And the third trend that we're converging over these three things is that people still want to buy things. And this is where Doyle's program comes in. If you can create products that can be purchased online and delivered to the door, you will win, because people still want to buy stuff and they want to support you and they want to be supported. But Doyle, I'm sure you've still found that the adoption for online shopping and digital transformation is quite shockingly small, isn't it?
It is, yeah. That's a really good point. Like, we want to be able to do these things, and you still can travel limited, but you still have to understand that not everybody can. And the second fact of it is, if you can reach customers from around the world or across the state or across the country, like, why wouldn't you? So it really allows you to reach out and connect with people, but you have to have those mechanisms in place. And whether it's a physical product, whether it's more of a service type delivery method, but you have to have that digital delivery method. And without it, you're not going to be able to do it. So back to your question about digital adoption, like, typically pre-COVID, it was about 25% on average global, meaning that businesses could complete a full transaction, a monetary transaction online, right? So if you think about it, 25% of companies can do that, which leaves 75% that they have no idea what to do, which is quite stunning, because the internet has been around for, 25, almost 25
Well, Google was
years.
invented in 1998.
Yeah, but the website started in like 96-ish, 97.
Yeah.
So anyway, the point is, it's been a long time. So why don't we have that digital adoption like at 50%?
Yeah.
Why can't 50% of companies have a process, have an understanding of being able to digital deliver their product or service online in the digital economy? There's really no reason other than perhaps it's laziness, perhaps it's technology adoption. There are obviously a lot of factors here, and I'm not trying to throw everything into one bucket, but it's my mission to be able to say, how do we get more businesses being able to complete those transactions online?
Would you agree, Irene? Would you agree, Irene?
Yeah.
Not only I agree with that, I can only make these statements stronger, because I speak with a lot of experts in digital transformation and with a lot of tech people, and yet they still have to admit that more of traditional companies with legacies, they're having such a tough time to what seemed to be easy and intuitive thing to do. Yes, just, just change your business process, just change your business model. That doesn't work overnight. And yet this digital transformation of 2030 came to us in 2020.
That's right. We're about 10 years ahead of where we should have been, aren't we?
There was a study as well from Sloan, I think it was, that they looked at the GFC in 2008, and then they looked at the economic effect of COVID in 2020. And the businesses that have had the greatest, fastest rate of recovery are the ones that, I mean, what Irene said, it's, if you're using a legacy business model, you are the slowest to recover, right? By like about 40 to 50%. So, and that they found that out in the GFC, and then again in 2020 with COVID, they saw that the businesses that have a modern digital business model are the ones that recover.
Yeah, they can bounce back faster.
Five times as fast as a normal legacy.
Absolutely, and a lot of it is skills, right? People who have the skills in the business, right, to run it as it is right now. Okay, that they are more prepared, they are more resilient for whatever comes next. So, and it's not an overnight change. I was working for a big company. I know what it takes to change tiny thing in a big business. All right. It's easier to say for businesses who were born digital or on the cloud, right? Kind of equipped with it by the timing they were born. But so all I'm saying is, Doyle, absolutely. I mean, I'm behind your mission if you need any help there, because frankly, there's so much work to do still. Yep.
It's an extremely good synergy with what we're doing here. This particular show is called Better Than Real Life, and at the very least, it's a good alternative. But Lisa, does that help you prepare the process now? Have you got to a point where you can do some animation for us, or would you like to sort of wrap up some last words about what you do and how we can do this better?
Sure. So I think I can play this video now. Hang on, give me 1 second to just So this is what I've got for you from talking and drawing at the same time today. And so if people want to find out a little bit more about me, I have a website called drawingoutyourgenius.com. If you go there, you'll see it's actually in the middle of being updated. Every time I add more services and things, my workshops aren't on there. They'll be on there soon. Soon. I'm actually building the page right now. But if you go there, you'll be able to sign up to get like some more tips and templates and tools. And I'm planning to do a 3-day boot camp pretty soon, where you'll go from stick figures to being able to be like a doodle master in just a few days. So it's not ready yet, but if you want to hear about it, you'll see a form pop up when you go to my website. You can sign up for the list there, and you'll be the first to know. So let me see if I can make this go. Here we go. So this is a little different than when I normally do it, because I imported, I did all these drawings on these other boards and imported them in. But this basically tells the story of us. See, Doyle, you're not there yet because you were late. You come in later, right? It usually doesn't have all those flashes and everything. It's because it's because we imported some things from other places. There you are. There's the Sherpas going up the mountain.
The resemblance is striking, Lisa. So yes,
I think so. I think it's
as an artist, I don't know what to say, because
I think it's a pretty good likeness. Yeah. So
that's amazing.
Yeah. So this is whoops. My website.
And you now offer this as a service as a speaker, but also for events to draw at them. Is that where you do a lot of your work?
Yeah. If people want to work with me this way, there's a few ways. You can have me come and draw at your event where no one has to see me at all. I can make it so I can completely disappear. I can go like this, and you won't see me at all. I just go away, and all you see is my picture. Or I can do a hybrid where often this is what seems to work out best for people. I do some drawings at the events. People really love them or whatever. And then they say, hey, well, come to Lisa's session tomorrow morning where she's going to teach you how to
Yeah,
draw.
I'd imagine that'd be a very common model, that'd
It
suit
worked
us
well.
standing
I've only done
around.
it a couple of times. It was kind of by accident. I had been hired to do the sketching, and then they found out it was for Project Management Institute, a group here in America that talks about it's for project managers. And when they found out that I also taught about this, they're like, "Oh well, why don't we have you do a workshop too?" And it turned out to be a really great thing because people saw the sketching when I did the keynote, and then I had an amazing attendance at my workshop the next day because they all wanted to learn, how do you do this? So I taught them a little bit of like what I showed you earlier and a little bit more than that. So you can either hire me to do a doodling workshop or come and draw at your event or both. And then also I work inside of companies to help you visually facilitate other kinds of meetings, like having to do with customer journey or supply chain or project management and things like that, where we can, create a visual based on what goes on in that meeting so that people have a roadmap of what was said, what's supposed to, who's doing what next, so that there's actually a way for something for them to look at so they can take action and no one can say they don't remember what happened at the meeting.
All I remember, Lisa, from this is PMI, Project Management Institute. Look at me.
Yeah.
I am PMI certified project manager in my early days. So absolutely. And those project managers, they need a lot of help. A lot of help.
They love this. They love this because it really helps. It helps people remember, here's what we said we were going to do. Here's your part of the project. Here's first, second, third, fourth, what's supposed to happen. So that it helps, obviously if you were going to be doing something like that, it would be, you would have it set up. So there would be, some kind of a journey where it's like, it's a road, with the sunshine, and here you are, and you're going, and there's milestones, and there's, all things like that you do when you're,
that's the expedition, the digital expedition. If I might
yeah, exactly. Well, there's all kinds of metaphors. We didn't get to that today, but when I do the workshop, I teach people how to draw people and emotions. Right. We didn't do that today either, the faces and everything. Simple objects like the circles and the squares and the things you can make out of them and combine them with words. And then also systems, metaphors, and sort of sequences, so like things like mountains, which could symbolize so many things. There's a famous one with trees and fruits and roots, and what are our roots and what are the fruits that we want from our company, and what's going to be the sunshine and what's going to be the rain. All those kinds of metaphors help people kind of get out of their
people. Yeah, can you teach people how to draw their bosses? I found it very therapeutic. Okay.
Yeah, I think most people draw their boss. Most people draw their boss is not very flattering.
Throw stuff in it, but I don't know. But yeah.
Yeah.
Well, look, I think what we'll do is I think we need to have another session with you separately, maybe as a call, and we need to factor this into our offering. But also, I might wrap it up now, and we can, if you've got time, banter afterwards. But this has been an enormously beneficial session for me because we have been racking our brains trying to work out how we can stop this boring heads thing. I've gone to a lot of trouble to buy all this tech to make myself look good on a Thursday morning, but really, people don't want to just see me talking; they want these images. So I'm going to wrap it up, and I want to say a big thank you to Lisa for coming on. Big thank you. So I'm going to wrap it up, and I want to, if time allows, just have a bit of a banter afterwards. So I'll play a little bit of theme music, and then we'll go.
Thank you, Lisa, so much. Thank you.
Bye-bye.